Vladimir Zelensky isn't quite who he's portrayed to be. Even if you believe that he is a righteous servant of democracy, one thing is without a doubt, he is an actor, in more ways than one. But he's not an actor who simply became president. He had backing. What virtually no American knows about Zelensky is that he appears to be backed by shadowy billionaires accountable to no one other than their own business interests. Zelensky's image isn't something that just happened. It appears to be carefully coordinated and orchestrated. Zelensky as a leader is being portrayed by the dominant mainstream media as a noble, saint, selfless, brave, chic even. A hero to woke actors and warmongering politicians alike, Zelensky is the world's biggest celebrity, and he's being billed as something more. He is the new George Washington, the new Winston Churchill. So what's the truth? I'm Ben Swan, and this is Zelensky Unmasked.
And who is Zelensky? I mean, this is a guy that used to play the piano with his penis when he was a comedian playing the president of Ukraine.
The history of Zelensky is interesting, and it's exactly what you would expect for a person who is acting as the president of a country right now. He was in a TV show, The Servant of the People, and he was a comedian. And in that TV show, he was a teacher who became president. And he wanted the country to join NATO and join the EU and all of the things that, he's acting as now. So then his financial backers then started a party, and they called that party the Servant of the People Party. And they ran him as president with exactly the same platform that he had in the television show.
Vladimir Zelensky didn't just become president of Ukraine. Not surprisingly, he had help. What mainstream media won't tell you is where that help came from. A name you've probably never heard. Igor Kolomoisky is one of Ukraine's leading oligarchs, and he's the owner of the 1+1 Media Group, one of Ukraine's largest media conglomerates. Kolomoisky's network aired Zelensky's hit TV show, Servant of the People, the one that made him a star. Kolomoisky also has been accused of being one of the most notorious gangsters in Ukrainian history. He's accused of embezzling billions of dollars and of hiring people to kill his rivals. That aside, Ukraine's worst-kept secret is that Kolomoisky was pulling the strings of Zelensky's presidential campaign. And even though he's Jewish, U.S. government officials claim that Kolomoisky was the brainchild and bankroller of Ukraine's neo-Nazi Azov battalion. Soon after Zelensky's Servant of the People Party was launched, Kolomoisky got the attention of the FBI. The U.S. Justice Department claims that his Privat bank ran a Ponzi scheme which stole billions from investors and hid $70 million of it in the United States. It was Kolomoisky's money and the enormous power he wielded which was needed to complete Zelensky's transformation from TV personality to his country's top man.
The show was so popular and Ukrainian presidents were so bad that they took him, ran him, and he beat the people, not because he's qualified, but because they were so sick of the old system.
Из двух пи***расов выбираем меньше. И так 25 лет подряд. Ты знаешь, что это?
They thought this actor could pretend to be president better than presidents were actually being president.
So clearly it was a production to create a television show and then eventually turn it into a party. But they knew that the people of Ukraine wanted peace, as most people in most countries want.
At least he's promised to end the war. That's what we are hoping for.
So he ran as a peace candidate. And he ran arguing that he would push for peace with Russia, peace with the Donbass, etc., and he won. Of course, when he won, unfortunately, he did a complete political reversal, and he went in the direction that his backers wanted.
Zelensky took office in 2019 amidst the catastrophic collapse of public confidence in Ukraine's government and frustration with that society's endemic corruption. Hope quickly turned to despair, however, once it became clear that under Zelensky, nothing had changed. The economy remained in shambles, corruption was still rampant, and the Donbass war still raged on. Zelensky had failed to live up to any of his promises.
The war comes, and they take this man with 23% popularity who has shut down all democracy, and we turn him into Winston Churchill.
And pretty soon, Zelensky was everywhere, on the cover of Time, Newsweek, Wired, Vanity Fair. He was even photographed for Vogue. You can't make this stuff up. He and his wife posed for cover photos while he was in the midst of leading a war, supposedly for his country's survival. Really? And he had time for this. Actually, he had time for this and a lot more. The actor turned president also made his way to the U.S. stage by recording messages which were played live at the Grammys and the Golden Globes. He rang the bell at Wall Street virtually, and he visited Congress live and in person. A weird sand statue of him was erected in Estonia, and Congressman Joe Wilson, a Republican from South Carolina, introduced a bill to erect a permanent bust of Zelensky at the U.S. Capitol. By the way, you can now purchase a miniature version of this would-be bust on Amazon for $19.99.
He was selected to act in this role, and he's doing a fantastic job as an actor. Quite frankly, this is a role of a lifetime, and he's killing it.
And it's clear that Zelensky got a lot of help in prepping for this role.
So basically today, the Ukraine is run by the deep state, the military in Washington, the people who want war to make money from war, in the military-industrial complex in the United States, and Zelensky is a puppet within this whole big show.
It was from the very beginning, this was some kind of in my opinion, it was some kind of an intelligence-pushed media operation to this day. And that's why he's always behind green screens. That's always why he's doing covers for various magazines, etc., because this is really a production for people worldwide to think that they have a president of a country and he's just a hollow figure.
Here's something you're not going to see on CNN. Throughout history, intelligence agencies have invested massive amounts of money to manage public relations campaigns. That's just a fact. These campaigns have been waged to spread disinformation in the interest of getting public opinion behind a war. And you don't have to look very far back in the past to find examples. I'll give you one right here. 1990, a girl from Kuwait who said her name was Naira testified that she witnessed babies being taken out of incubators and killed by Saddam Hussein's forces. Turned out, that was a lie. And the girl wasn't just some random girl. She was the daughter of Kuwait's ambassador to the United States, Saud al-Sabah. The story about the incubators, by the way, it never happened. But it was too late, once we knew for sure. The publicity campaign associated with that lie swayed public opinion against Saddam Hussein and in favor of a U.S. invasion of Kuwait. 12 years later, U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell took his turn at lying with an eye towards Iraq. Remember this famous shot of him holding up vials of those biological weapons samples? He testified before the world that the country had weapons of mass destruction. This bold-faced lie prompted the U.S. invasion of Iraq and the deaths of over 1 million Iraqi people. So the question that thinking people must grapple with, could the same thing be happening in the case of Ukraine?
It's interesting because for the most part, that production has been successful. He's been pushed as a hero of democracy, and this poor country, this small, democratic, free country has been attacked by a brutal and angry, emotional person, not a country. It's the traditional Marvel Comics hero-villain scenario. He's a hero, he's a good guy, stands for everything good, and he's attacked by the equivalent of Lex Luthor in a Superman movie, which would be the evil Vladimir Putin. And they've been, pretty successful with that in the United States simply because that's the only story that's allowed to get out.
The reality of things in Ukraine are much more grim. Under Zelensky's watch, the Russian language has come under attack, as has the Orthodox Church. Alternative media outlets have been banned, as have opposition political parties. Zelensky's cult-like status in the West is masking the rising tide of authoritarianism in Ukraine. And not just that, it appears that even Zelensky is starting to believe his own hype.
Now he actually believes he's a man of gravitas, that he is Winston Churchill.
Like the original Churchill, Zelensky isn't necessarily all about peace either, even though the PR machine that surrounds him tells us that he is. As numerous military analysts have asked, what's the end game here? There's much agreement that long-term, Ukraine doesn't really have much of a chance in this war. So why is there no effort toward peace?
10 years from now, when they write the history of this conflict, he's going to be the most reviled man in the world because he is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians. Hundreds of thousands of people he swore to protect, he slaughtered. For what? Because he's addicted to weapons-infused, ego-driven narcissism.
Ukraine is becoming a nation of widows and orphans.
There's 300,000 dead Ukrainians. Douglas McGregor would say 350,000. All right, I'll go on the conservative side there, and 30,000 Russians. I don't know, they say the figure's 10 to 1, whatever it is. Let's say 400,000, 500,000 altogether, whatever it is. It all could have been avoided. And you know what? Nobody in D.C. that's connected, whether it be Raytheon, Victoria Nuland, Joe Biden, Lloyd Austin, they don't give a rat's ass about any of those Ukrainian deaths at all.
Zelensky is part of a pattern right now throughout the U.S. empire where you put an actor in place who appears to be making decisions, but he's not. So he's just another one of many. And they bring him out, and he does what he's told.
If Zelensky just does what he's told, that would mean he's a hollow leader. It also means somebody else is pulling the strings. Who is it that appears to be telling Zelensky what to do, what to think, what to say? Who is really running Ukraine? We'll investigate as we continue to unmask Zelensky.